Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm going to turn off this over here for the moment. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning grind. I'm a few minutes late today. I started getting sleep back under control again, and then all of a sudden, I completely screwed up again. Screwed it up again today, and went back to sleep and just woke up in time to kind of get this started, albeit late. So, all right, well, I guess I'm starting that over again. But good morning, everyone. Good morning. We got James here. We got people here. Oh, and PH, good morning. Good morning. Zero the Blade is here. Good morning. Good to see you. Joe, PH has been checking out yesterday's. So the good morning, Robert. Jack says this is a big deal. Robert, it is. Robert, good morning, Robert. So today I thought that we would take a look at Dungeon World because we looked at Apocalypse World yesterday, and I think it was good to look at. I understand, like, it's funny because everybody's like, okay, this is the game with the sex moves, but I do kind of respect what it was trying to do. I'm not sure if it I didn't completely understand all of the moves well enough and how to play. So what I thought we would do is go over to Dungeon World, which we were told yesterday is powered by the apocalypse. So Powered by the Apocalypse games come up quite a bit. So Powered by the Apocalypse just means that it's built on the mechanics similar to Dungeon World to a greater, or excuse me, built on mechanics similar to Powered by the Apocalypse games means that it's built on mechanics similar to Apocalypse World, more or less close. So we were told, or somebody in the comment section yesterday said that yes, and it is true, Dungeon World is powered by the Apocalypse. But apparently it's further away from Apocalypse World, and there are no sex moves in Dungeon World. Now, I'm not saying you can't add them back in. If you're missing that, you can add back in sex moves, I'm sure. But there's no sex moves in Dungeon World. But I thought that we'd go ahead and look at this one while we were taking a look at the Powered by the Apocalypse and Apocalypse World, because it comes up so often in the chats. And if you're not familiar with them, then here's what they are. And maybe, since we're doing dungeon type stuff in this one, it'll be a little bit more familiar and we can understand it a little bit better. I really want to see if there's a better example of like the moves and using moves in the game, because obviously that everything is a move, right, in the game. But its example last time in Apocalypse World was long and not exactly clear. So we will see. No fetid swamp dungeon sex move. Well, we could add, yeah, well, not yet. You could write I think the world is waiting for your third-party supplement for that. Let me say here, I've got so I'm feeling ill prepared here. Discord server. Yesterday, I did not get my lawnmower fixed. I did a bunch of yard work. So I'm going to try to work on my lawnmower again this afternoon. I'm going to do a lot of script writing today. But I got the server link. I just put the Discord server link here. But the reason I was thinking about that is because the Goodnight Sword link is also right here. I'll put that in there as well. Because yesterday, once I got in from yard work, I did work on the fulfilling the Goodnight Sword Kickstarter. I sent out the links to all of the digital editions. Wait, it says it's not there. Hang on. So the digital editions have been sent out. I did make a mistake, though, with when I was ordering packaging. Let's see here. Here it is, the Goodnight Sword Kickstarter campaign. I send that link out so that if you need a late pledge, I've started fulfillment, but I still have a late pledge option open. I'm not doing any type of Kickstarter or anything. I'm not doing any type of pledge manager after this Kickstarter or anything like that, because, like I said, fulfillment has already started. So Goodnight Sword, that is the very first book in the Tales of Rabbivania. Goodnight Sword, a world of chivalry, gallantry, and rabbits, based on Goodnight Moon, obviously. And you can watch an animated audiobook version of it down here. But if you missed it and you need a late pledge, then click this button right here. I'm going to keep this late pledge button open here for like maybe 2 or 3 more days. So because I fulfilled all the digital rewards. So if you late pledge, I can go ahead and send you the digital reward. But then I've got the books that I've got to sign incoming. I haven't received a shipping notification yet. I ordered the packaging that I thought I needed to ship out the books that I'm gonna have to ship out because I've got to sign them. And I got it yesterday, and I realized the stuff that I ordered is too small. So I'm reordering the shipping stuff. So all the shipping stuff will be here by the time the books are here. And then I'm expecting Thursday, but it may actually be Friday, because it was closed really late on Thursday. So it may be Friday actually before Kickstarter sends the money to me. And as soon as it does that, I'm going to start ordering the books and get the books sent to you that are not signed. So fulfillment going to happen. Hopefully I'll get these books this week. Hopefully I'll get these other books this week. It's possible. They ship 2 to 4 weeks. And so it's been 2 weeks now. So I could be waiting for them at any time. All right. I'm excited about that. And I got other things to work on too. I was thinking about a whole bunch of other ideas. Oh, PH. Okay, so Dungeon World. I'm really enjoying playing Dungeon World. The issues I've had with it are the busy sheets, and the moves are great and funny, but I feel restrained having to look at the book and sheets too much. Okay, I'm glad we have somebody who was playing Dungeon World here. Now, we had a few people who were playing Powered by the Apocalypse, or had played Powered by the Apocalypse, I believe, here yesterday. And Trey was talking about, Trey said something, Trey G. I noticed in the Ravenkeep Discord, Trey says, I'm sad I missed this one live talking about Apocalypse World. While I know some people do not like Powered by the Apocalypse games, I have a love for this style. It's true that long-term play is an issue with these games, but I've never had a group play long enough for it to be an issue. Anon says, ironically, one of the design goals of Powered by the Apocalypse was to avoid referencing the character sheet to see what you can do in a game. Really? Well, it does seem like you've got a lot of info on the character sheet with all these different moves. All right, let me bring up. Okay, here we are. Let me bring up what Dungeon World is. And maybe this will complete our understanding. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've read either one of these, so I needed a refresher on it as well. We evaluated the Apocalypse World long time ago when we were looking at making an RPG for Call of Cthulhu. Not Call of Cthulhu, just the Cthulhu mythos. All right, but here we are, Dungeon World. Oh, have we sipped? Anon says playbooks, your playbooks, that's what the character sheet is. Playbooks are not supposed to be a selection of options, but of outcomes. All right, let's keep that in mind as we're looking at this. Let's breathe and sip before we get started. So, everybody, let's do our mental health portion of the show. Let's focus on our breathing. 2 deep breaths. 2 deep breaths. Hold it. Then complete exhales. Then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. So here we go. And sip. All right. I don't know, Last Phoenix. Let's find out. All right. Dungeon World. Introduction, playing the game, character creation, the basic moves. This looks like could potentially be a shorter kind of book than the last one was. So we've got introduction, playing the game, character creation, basic moves, bard, cleric, druid, fighter, paladin, ranger, thief, wizard. The game master, the first session, fronts the world monsters, different types of monsters, equipment, advanced delving. All right, let's see if we can find the character sheet. Well, okay, actually, before we do that, let's just see if what it says at the very beginning. So Dungeon World is a world of fantastic adventure, a world of magic, gods and demons, of good and evil, law and chaos. Brave heroes venture into the most dangerous corners of the land in search of gold and glory. Adventurers take many shapes in Dungeon World. The races of elves, men and dwarves, and halflings all have their heroes. Some are nearly invincible beasts of battle encased in iron armor. Others are more mysterious, conjuring up and wielding the mighty forces of magic. Treasure and glory are sought out by a holy cleric, a tricky thief, a mighty paladin, and more. It's not all easy heroics and noble bravery, though. Every time the ranger guides his friends to the ancient woods, there's 100 things waiting to bite his head off. Slavering hordes of goblin troops, maybe. Or is this the cursed wood where dwells the Grey Witch, or the thrones of hateful dead looking to drag a meaty corpse back to their lair? Scary, sure, but there's treasure too. More gold and jewels and magic lost to a man have fallen between the cracks in a world that you can't imagine. That you can, more gold and jewels and magic lost to man have fallen between the cracks in the world than you can imagine. Who better to retrieve it than a band of stalwart heroes? You and your friends are those heroes. You go where others can't and won't. They're monstrous things lurking in the woods. in the world. Are you ready to face them? I do like this very colorful art here. I do like that. I've never really been sure what exactly this cover is. Okay, so it's a band of adventurers, and they look like they're fighting. We got zombies coming this way. We got dragons burning the sky over here, and we got some looks like Cthulhu tentacles coming out over here. They're trying to hold back, and rats over here. Actually, that looks a lot like a zombie side kind of thing. But I do like this art that's over here. Anon says, it's not about if you can do something, but what happens when you do it. Oh, that's interesting. Let's also keep that in mind as we go through here. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning. Okay. So I think we already know like a description of bard, cleric, druid, fighter, paladin, ranger, thief, the wizards. We don't need that. Why? Why play Dungeon World? First, to see if the characters can do amazing things. To see them explore the unexplored, slay the undying, and go from the deepest bowels of the world to the highest peaks of adventure. To see them caught up in momentous events and grand tragedies. Second, to see them struggle together as parties, to gather a party despite their differences, stand united against their foes, or argue over treasure, debate battle plans, and join in righteous celebration over a victory hard won. Third, because the world still has many places to explore. There are unlooted tombs and dragon hordes dotting the countryside and waiting for quick-fingered or strong-armed adventurers to discover them. That unexpected world has plans of its own. Play to see what they are and how they'll change the lives of our characters. Let's see. Wait, I want to see a character sheet in this. Character creation. Does it give me a character sheet in here? You would think. Let me see if it's in a different file. Dungeon World character sheets. Okay, it's a different file. Hang on, let me bring that up. So this is our character sheet right here. Separate file here. So we got basic moves here, hack and slash, volley. So this also seems like it's this is the character folio. How many pages is this? This is 28 pages. Oh, I guess it's because every type of class has its own, your own sheet. So I guess this is the reference. So your basic moves are hack and slash, volley, defy danger, defend, spout lore, discern realities, parlay, and aid or interfere. Okay. Last breath. Let's see. I'm sure we're going to look at all these here in a moment, but that's our basic moves. And I'm sure that following Apocalypse World, each character class is going to have its own own special moves. Last breath, what you do when you're dying. Encumbrance. Make camp when you settle in to consume a ration. Take watch. Undertake a perilous journey. Level up. End session. Carouse, supply, recover, recruit. Outstanding warrants, bolster. Oh, those are your special moves. So our basic moves, our special moves. Basic moves, special moves. I guess it's for printing out back and front. So here's our character sheet, though. Okay, here is the bard. So here's our bard character sheet. So name. I guess it's I'm gonna get some names here for you to choose from, whether you're elf or you're human. Look, knowing eyes, fiery eyes, or joyous eyes. Pick one. Fancy hair, wild hair, or stylish cap. Finery, traveling clothes, or poor clothes. Fit body, well-fed body, or thin body. Assign these scores to your stats. So here's strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Oh, so that's so that's very D&D like. I mean, it is D&D like. I didn't remember that. So assign these scores to your stats. 16 plus 2, 15 plus 1, 13 plus 1, 12 plus 0, 9 plus 0, and 8 minus 1. So everybody has that spread. So this uses a standard spread. And I noticed that we can check a box down here if you're confused, scared, sick, shaky, or weak to give you an adjustment to your score here. Damage, D6 to be something. Armor values, HP, current, and max. Your max HP is 6 plus Constitution. So this is definitely taking like classic Dungeons and Dragons. James says, I'm a stylish cap kind of PC myself. Oh, it's even got alignment. Good, neutral, chaotic. Race, elf, or human. Bonds. Fill in the name of your companions in at least one. This is not my... fill in the name of one of your companions in at least one. Oh, this is not my first adventure with blank. I sang stories of blank long before I ever met him in person. Blank is the butt of my jokes. I'm writing a ballad about the adventures of blank. Blank trusted me with a secret. Blank does not trust me for good reason. And then we have starting moves for the bard, which are arcane art. When you weave a performance into a basic spell, choose an ally and effect. Bardic lore, charming and open. A port in the storm. Level and XP. Oh, we got, so the back of this is gear. Your load is 9 plus strength. You have dungeon rations, 5 use, 1 weight. Choose 1 instrument. All are 0 weight for you. Your father's mandolin, a fine lute, a stolen horn, a fiddle never played, a songbook. Okay, oh no, so okay, choose a songbook, a forgotten tongue. Choose your clothing, leather armor or ostentatious clothes. Choose your armament, dueling rapier, worn bow. Choose 1 adventuring gear, bandages, halfling pipe leaf, or 3 coins. So advanced move, when you gain levels from 2 to 5, choose from these moves. So this is what you get as you level up. An ear for magic, bamboozle, vicious blast. It goes to 11. When you unleash a crazed performance, a righteous lute solo or mighty bass brass, maybe choose a target who can hear you and roll plus charisma. On a 10 plus, the target attacks their nearest ally in range. On a 7 to 9, they attack their nearest ally, but you also draw their attention and ire. So that's what our character sheets look like. This is the cleric. So we've got things that look like that for each one of them. The druid. So maybe this is going to be like taking, it's been so long since I've read this. It's possible that I'm going to like this. Hey, Tomocrat says, hello all. I've heard this book can be a good resource book. Let's okay, so I don't think I think so that's what we've got for all the different character classes. It's possible I will like this more. Oh, what is this? Campaign front. Cast, stakes, danger. Front. I guess we'll find out what that is. Okay. Let's go back to the main book. Okay. Introduction, playing the game. Oh, here we go. That was clickable. Okay, so let's figure out how to actually play this game. And maybe we're going to have better examples. That would be great. Okay, so making moves. The most basic unit of rules in Dungeon World is the move. A move looks like this. So here is our example. When you attack an enemy in melee, roll plus strength. On 10 plus, so one of the things about, and I'm assuming this is the case with this, I think it's just a powered by the apocalypse thing, is you're rolling 2d6. You're rolling 2d6. On a 6 or less, you fail, right? On 7 to 9, you do something in a little way. On a 10 plus, you do the thing in a big way. So you're rolling 2d6, you're adding some type of modifier based on some kind of statistic, and really you're looking for 7 plus But if you want to succeed in a big way, you're focusing on, you're trying to get a 10 plus. So that's what we're trying to do here. Oh yeah, it is down here. The basic outcomes. Look right down here. So 10 plus, you do it with little trouble. 7 to 9, you do it, but with complications or trouble. 6 says 6 or less. The GM says what happens, and you mark XP. Because last time, good morning, Nightmare. Good morning. We had character relationships. I thought about that, like it being a teen drama in Apocalypse World. I was thinking about that a lot yesterday. And you know, you're gaining experience by what your relationships are with other people. So there must be some other way. So you're failing. The GM says what happens, and you mark XP. Okay. So when you're making an attack roll in melee, for instance, roll plus strength. On 10 plus, you deal your damage to the enemy and avoid their attack. At your option, you may also choose to do plus d6 damage, but expose yourself to the enemy's attack. On 7 to 9, you deal your damage to the enemy, and the enemy makes an attack against you. Moves are rules that tell you when they trigger and what effects they have. Moves are rules that tell you when they trigger and what effect they have. A move depends on a fictional action and always has some type of fictional effect. Fictional means that the action and effect comes from the world the characters are describing. In the move above, the trigger is when you attack an enemy in melee. The effect is what follows. A roll to be made and differing fictional effects based on the outcome of the roll. When a player describes their character doing something that triggers a move, the move happens and its rules apply. If a move requires a roll, its description will tell you what dice to roll and how to read the results. A character can't take the fictional action that triggers a move without the move occurring. For instance, if Isaac tells we saw this in Apocalypse World. If Isaac tells the GM that his character dashes past a crazed axe-wielding orc to the open door, he makes the defy danger move because the trigger is when you act despite an imminent threat. Isaac can't just describe his character running past the orc without making the defy danger move, so he can't make the defy danger move without acting despite the imminent threat or suffering a calamity. The move and the fiction go hand in hand. Everyone at the table should listen for when moves apply. If it's even unclear if a move has been triggered, everyone should work together to clarify what's happening. Ask questions of everyone involved until everyone sees the situation the same way, and then roll the dice, or don't, as the situation requires. The GM, monsters, NPCs, and other assorted beasties also have moves, but they work differently. Moves and the dice. Most moves include the phrase roll plus X, where X is one of your character's ability modifiers, con, for example. Unless the move tells you otherwise, that roll always means that you roll 2 6-sided dice and add the results of the value and the modifier. 2 6-sided dice, yes. Some moves will tell you to add some other value to your roll instead of ability modifier. I'm making a move that asks me to roll plus strength, and my strength modifier is +1. I rolled 2 6-sided dice. I got a 4, so my total is 6. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I got a 1 and a 4, so my total is 6. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. That's not right. Okay. All results fall into 3 basic categories. A total of 10 or higher, written as 10 plus, is the best outcome. A total of 7 to 9 is still a success, but comes with a compromise or cost. 6 or lower is trouble, but you get to mark XP. So that's that like a Call of Cthulhu kind of thing, that you get experience by failing at things. Each move will tell you what happens on a 10 plus and 7 to 9. Most moves won't say what happens on a 6 or less. That's up to the GM, but you will also always mark XP. Damage rolls work a little bit differently. They use different dice depending on who or what is dealing damage. Okay. The effects of moves. Some moves use a phrase like deal damage. Dealing damage means you roll the damage dice for your class. Sometimes your weapon will add or subtract damage too. Oh, really? So like Bard said D6. So I bet those other character folios had different damage for the different classes. Take 1 forward. That means take 1 to your next move roll, not damage. Say take +1 ongoing. That means take +1 to all moves, not damage. The bonus can be larger than +1, or it could be a penalty. An ongoing bonus will also say what causes it to end, like until you dismiss the spell. You give hold. So hold is a term here. Hold is currency that allows you to make some choice later on by spending the hold as the move describes. Hold is always saved up for the move that generated. It's always saved up for the move that generated. You can't spend your hold from defend on the trap expert or vice versa, for example. It's a currency that allows you to make some sort of choice later on by spending the hold as the move describes. Okay, present a choice. Gives you a chance to say something about your character in the history. Say mark XP, which means you add 1 to the current XP total. The Last Phoenix says, I do like how it puts an accent on intertwining narrative and dice rolls. I like that too, because one of, describing a cool attack or cool what you do, you can do that in Dungeons and Dragons, but I often find that it just slows the game down. And a lot of people, sometimes it's fun, but on the other hand, like the dice have already been rolled. Like, when the dice have already been rolled and the decision is, the outcome has already been determined. And then the game master's like, now make a awesome, describe what happened. If it takes more than a couple of seconds for the player to do, I think oftentimes characters get bored. But this is definitely, GURPS is, Fate is more fiction first. This is about it, deeply intertwining those. Your class tells you the maximum HP. Your constitution, the ability, not the modifier, comes into play as well. So more constitution means more HP. When a character takes damage, they subtract the damage dealt from their current HP. Armor mitigates damage. So if a character has armor, they subtract its value from the damage dealt. This might mean a blow is turned away completely. That's fine. That's what armor is for. Damage can never take a character below 0 HP. Damage is determined by the attacker. Player characters deal damage according to their class, the weapon used, and the move they've made. If a move just says deal damage, the character rolls their class damage dice plus any bonuses or penalties from moves, weapons, or effects. If a move specifies an amount of damage, use that in place of the class's damage roll. Monsters roll damage is listed on their descriptions. Other sources of damage are left up to the GM. If it threatens, bruises, or scrapes at worst, that's D4 damage. If it's likely to spill some blood but nothing horrendous, that's D6 damage. It might break some bones, that's D8 damage. It could kill a common person, that's D10 damage. Add the ignore armor tag if the source of the damage is particularly large or if the damage comes from magic or poison. Temporary or circumstantial armor works the same way as armor that you wear. 1 armor for partial cover, 2 armor for major cover. Damage is dealt based on the fiction, it says. Moves that deal damage like hack and slash are just special cases of this. The moves establish the damage as being dealt in the fiction. Damage can be assigned even when no move is made if it follows from the fiction. So, how do you die? Damage from multiple creatures. We have stun damage right here, adding and subtracting damage, best and worst. Healing. There are 2 types of healing in Dungeon World, medical aid and the passage of time. Medical aid, both magical and mundane, heals damage according to the move or item used. Some moves may fully replenish HP, while the others heal just enough to keep someone standing in a fight. When a character spends some of the time resting without doing anything, their wounds also heal. The amount of healing is described in the applicable moves. Make camp for a night is in a dangerous area. Recover for rests in civilization. Death. So a character who is reduced to 0 immediately takes his last breath. Death comes for a commoner and king alike. No stat is added to the last breath roll. No one knows what lies beyond the black gates of death, but it's said that many secrets of the mortal plane are laid bare in the end of death's dominion. When you die, you might just see them. Death offers bargains to some, from the simple to the costly. Death is capricious and may ask a favor in the future or exact a toll. He may demand a sacrifice or ask something strange and seemingly innocent. Death's whim cannot be predicted. Depending on the outcome of the last breath, that was some type of roll, last breath roll. The character may become stable. A stable character stays at HP but is alive and unconscious. If they receive healing, they regain consciousness and may return to battle and seek safety. If a stable character takes damage again, they draw their last breath once more and return to face death. After death, resurrection. Debilities. Losing HP is a general thing. It's getting tired, bruised, cut, and so on. Some wounds are deeper, though. These are debilities. That was like weak, shaky, sick, stunned, confused, scarred. Those were like our conditions. And we saw that we could check those on our boxes. Stargate Mind asks, what year was this made? It was 2012, I believe. I think I saw that in the very beginning. I checked that, but I didn't call it out. So I believe it's 2012. Section on magic here. Those are probably other kinds of moves. Character change. Characters change too. We talk about leveling up versus character change. Advancement, like everything else in Dungeon World, is both prescriptive and descriptive. Prescriptive means that when a player changes their character sheet, the character changes in the fiction. Descriptive means that when the characters change in the fiction, the player should change their character sheet to match. This isn't a benefit or detriment to the player or the GM. It's not an excuse to gain more power or take them away. It's just a reflection of life in Dungeon World. Avon, despite being a wizard, has risen to the notice of Lenorel, the deity of arcane knowledge. After being blessed by an avatar of Lenorel and saying his vows to the church, Avon is under the deity's watch. He can fulfill petitions and gain boons like a cleric. Or Gregor offers his signature weapon, an axe whose green steel is tempered in orc blood, as a desperate bargain to save King Arthurian from eternal damnation. Without his axe, he gets none of the benefits of his signature weapon. Should he recover it, he'll have access to its benefits again. Let's see. If you play Dungeon World, this is how to level up then. We're looking at Dungeon World here, and you've missed the description of all of the half-orc sex moves. So you may want to go back and catch up on that. Not really. We have no sex moves this time. Okay, so leveling up. We'll be awarded XP at the end of each section. Acting according to your alignment and fulfilling the conditions of your alignment moves will grant you XP at the end of each session as well. If you resolve a bond or create a new one, you gain XP too. Anytime you roll 6 or less, you get XP right away. Excuse me. It did tell me how long it takes to move up. Once you've reached 10th level, things change a little. When you have enough XP to go to 11th level, instead you choose one of these: retire to safety, take an apprentice, or change entirely to a new class. Bonds, writing new bonds, alignment, hirelings, the adventurer's life, the world. Example of play. Oh, well, here's an example of play. All right. That's not all this long. It's still written in a real narrative fashion, but let's see if this gives us a better idea of how this all works than what we've seen before. So, all right, let's try this out. The Apocalypse World one was weird. So I'm GMing a game with Isaac playing Omar, Ben playing Brian, Amy playing Nora, and Dan playing Wraith. I guess it's Wrath. The group has come upon a tribe of goblins preparing the ritual sacrifice of a rare and valuable albino crocodile, highly regarded as pets among the wealthy of the city. Okay, the group has come across a tribe of goblins preparing the ritual sacrifice of a rare and valuable albino crocodile, highly regarded as pets among the wealthy of the city. 3 of the goblin warriors, drugged on narcotic vapors, charge the fighter Brienne, shrieking. 2 others take cover, prepare their bows, and gesture urgently toward Wrath as they make signs to ward off the evil eye. Another group of 3 slips off into the shadows around the outer edge of the chamber, preparing for a sneak attack. The high priest and her acolyte carry on with the ritual, rubbing the croc's upturned belly to keep it compliant and bringing out the sacred knife to slit its throat. Once I describe the situation, I make sure the game's conversation by giving them a chance to do something. I make sure the game's a conversation by giving them a chance to do something. So what do? Isaac jumps into the action first. There's enough shadows at the edge of the chamber to hide in? Yeah, I say. The goblins aren't much for lighting, apparently. The edges of the chamber is just kind of disappear into crumbling walls, rubble, and gloom. Great. I'm going over there. The side where the sneaky ones went. Omar glances over his shoulders, pulls up his hood over his head, and ducks into the shadows. I'm going to pop out of the shadows right here where the torches illuminate the sacrificial altar. I look at the map and say, well, there's certainly a danger of being discovered that I think you're defying. Sounds like a dex to me, since you're. Sounds like so. We said defy danger was one of the moves. There's certainly a danger of being discovered, and I think you're defying. Sounds like dex to me, since you're moving carefully and silently. So he picks up the dice and rolls. The dice show a 1 and a 2 plus his dex of 2 for only 5. Damn, he says. I already have an idea of what to do, but I check it against my list of moves to be sure. This is I as in the game master speaking. Sure enough, my idea to have him get his foot lodged in the rubble in the darkness is a move. Put someone in a spot. As you make your way through the shadows, you put your foot down on some rubble, and it shifts under you, pinning your foot. What's worse is you hear a deep, raspy breath as the shifting rubble awakes something in the shadows. Are you giving away your position to cry for help, or are you trying to get out yourself? I'm not sure. That's fine. We'll come back to you. What's the rest doing? Dan steps up. Those goblins that ducked into the shadows, can I see them? Not at first glance. Are you trying to pick them out? No, I'm just wondering if they'll be targets for my sleep spell. I push the winds of magic into a lulling summer breeze that fills the room. Dan rolls his cast a spell move to cast sleep. He rolls 6 total on the dice, and he has +2 int for a total of 8. He has a choice to make. You can feel the spell slipping away from you. The winds of magic are already caught up in the goblin's ritual sacrifice. There are some options on the move. Which one are you doing to keep the spell? Dan ponders his options. I may need to put more of these guys to sleep. Brienne, can you cover me if I get into trouble, or should I take the -1 forward? Sure, I can cover you, Ben says. Okay, I'll take the danger option. Great, I say. The narcotic vapors these goblins are on, it attunes their senses. They can feel the winds of magic just a bit, and now they're all running at you instead of Brienne. How many creatures are you putting to sleep? Dan rolls the dice. Looks like only 1. Damn. Right in the middle of some long goblin invocation, the priest just drops to the floor. Her acolyte immediately starts shaking her to wake her up. Neither of them is paying much attention to the albino crocodile, which is no longer content since no one is rubbing its belly. The goblins on the fumes, though, they're coming right at Wrath. Ben jumps in. I step between Wrath and the crazed goblin and make myself a big target, drawing the gnome's attention with a yell. Sounds like a defend, I say. Okay, I rolled a 7, so I hold 1. Great. The 3 goblins on fumes practically bowl Wrath over as they slam into him, swinging their daggers wildly. No, they don't, Ben said. I spin my hold to get in the way and direct the attack to me. So he stepped out, made a defense roll. He rolled a 7. Okay, so he did it with and he says 7. I say, I wish we had some extra information here. Okay, I rolled a 7, so I hold 1. I suppose if we were looking at defend, we would understand what that means, but I'd like some information right here. Great. The 3 goblins on fumes practically bowl Wrath over as they slam into him, swinging their daggers wildly. But he goes ahead and uses it. I spin my hold to get in the way to direct the attack to me. So Brienne steps in at the last moment, pushes Wrath out of the way, and the goblins lay into her instead. Looks like 5 damage. Nora, Brienne's got these 3 psychotic goblins all over her. Wrath just put the priestess to sleep. The crocodile is stirring, and Omar's nowhere to be found. What are you doing? PH says, after a while, the game becomes too repetitive. It seems to be a narrative-based game, but the restrictions of the moves and always rolling some dice makes play experience a little boring. That was my group experience. So you're saying it seems to be a narrative-based game, but the restriction of the moves and always rolling some dice makes the gameplay experience a little boring. Jack says fiction first is such a game-changing concept. This game changed the way I GM, required reading for anyone serious about GMing. PH says, I guess we never memorized the moves, so we were always rolling 2 dice and checking the positive results. We felt no difference playing a warrior or a magic user. Good morning, Pepe Silva. Been enjoying your channel since the first OGL disaster. It's hard to catch you live because of work, but going through your catalog of videos has been great. Thank you for all the awesome entertainment. Oh, well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, we need to toast to Pepe here, because this has been so difficult. I don't know that I've seen you live in the chat here. In fact, Jack, have you been live in the chat as well? We always toast to people who make a new, or who post in the chat for their first time. So here's to you, Pepe Silva. Thank you so much. And also, Jack, I'm not sure. I think, Jack, this may be the first time I've seen you. So, Jack, here's to you as well, Jack. Sable Phoenix says, I'm in a Monster of the Week game, and it's absolutely fantastic. I think Powered by the Apocalypse is a genius system. We play in a 1930s New Orleans film noir setting for Monster of the Week. Okay, so we were going on to what Brienne is doing. First, I line up a shot on one of the archer goblins, and while I'm doing that, I give a little head nod, and Kanto heads off into the shadows. He's trained to hunt. He's looking for Omar to make sure he's all right. I look over the ranger's command move to make sure I know what effects of Kanto's search are. So that must be like an animal companion before responding. Well, on his own, Kanto will probably find Omar in a while. If you go into the darkness with him, you'll take a bonus to your discern realities roll to find Omar. But at first, it sounds like you're making a called shot. Oh, the goblin archers are surprised by me. I thought I was just volleying. It's time for me to make a call. No, they're entirely focused on Wrath. They're about to fire on him. I think you've got the elements of surprise because they're just too focused. Great. I'll go ahead and take a shot at the arms of the one closest to me. I want to drop his bow. Looks like that's plus dex 10. He drops the bow and takes 4 damage. I consult the goblin stats first, then reply, yep, that's killed him. And since you've hit him dead in the arm, he doesn't get a shot off. The other one, however, releases his bow at Wrath for 2 damage. Wrath, Brienne pushes you out of the way, and you think you're safe for a split second before an arrow, because that was Brienne pushes you out of the way, and you think you're safe for a split second before an arrow. So that was what happened before. Wrath got pushed out of the way, and you think you're safe, but now here an arrow flies into your leg. What are you doing about it? Actually, hold that thought. Let's see what Omar's doing. Isaac has had some time to think things through now. This deep, raspy breath, I can make out where it's coming from. Is it like a human-sized rasp or a monster-sized rasp? Sounds to me like you're trying to listen to your senses and get some information. I'm hoping this will remind Isaac there's a move for this instead of just telling him to make the move. Oh, yeah. I'm discerning realities. Staying as quiet as I can and just trying to pick up any detail of what this is. With my wisdom, that's a 7. Whew. What should I be on the lookout for? So yeah, so here he did have to roll a discern realities move. I wish they also like bolded the moves or something like that so we would know like they do in Fate. Oh, good morning, Sarah. Good morning. Good to see you. I take a second to look at my notes and with the map just to make sure I give him the information. Well, not the goblins, actually. They pass by closer to the light than you intend, intent on stabbing your friends and not noticing you. The thing is that you do see the tip of the huge crocodile snout peek over a mound of rubble with that rasping sound coming from it. It looks like the albino crocodile has a family and it's big and horse-sized. Oh my gosh, the albino crocodile family? They pass by closer to the light than you, the goblins do, intent on backstabbing your friends and not noticing you. The thing that you do see is the tip of this huge crocodile snout peek up over a mound of rubble with that with that rasping sound coming from it. It looks like the albino crocodile has a family. It's big, horse-sized. If you make noise by moving rocks and getting unstuck, it'll almost certainly hear you. What are you doing about that? Isaac ponders. So I can try to get out of here, defying danger, most likely from the sounds of it. Or I tear off a piece of my cloak to soak in an entirely new dose of my golden root poison. It's an applied poison, but if I can get this huge crocodile to swallow it before it swallows me, it'll treat me as a trusted ally, and then I could use it against the goblins. Okay, that sounds like a risky plan to me, but it's just crazy enough to work. Time to cut back to somebody else. Omar's soaking poison on a scrap of cloak. Brienne's got 3 drugged-up goblins scraping at her. Nora's got an eye out for Omar, and there are goblins sneaking in the shadows. 1 goblin archer by the altar. The crocodile is waking up, and Wrath just took an arrow to the knee. Phew, Wrath, what are you doing about that arrow? So that is an example of play. Let's not go through character creation. Let's focus on how to play. It seemed like the character sheets kind of told you how to move. Okay. Oh, wait. So here, basic moves. Okay, basic moves. PH says, I really enjoyed playing Dungeon World. Don't get me wrong. I just feel narrative first games should have an empowering mechanic with diverse outcomes based on the player's choices. Sarah says, my GMs don't usually want players to roll their own. The Last Phoenix says, I remember it now. I have played it a couple of times. Too abstract for my taste. Sapphire Ridge. Sapphire Ridge, are you new here as well? Sounds like we might need to toast you as well. Sapphire Ridge says, this sounds like 5e D20 rolls with pressure on the referee to be an audiobook so far. Here's to you, Sapphire Ridge. Cheers. So Sapphire Ridge says, this sounds like 5e D20 rolls with pressure on the referee to become an audiobook so far. But it does sound like when you're adjudicating the moves, that a lot of the moves do have what happens. It said that moves don't necessarily have what happens on a 6-, but it did say that a lot of the moves tell you what to do on a 7+ or a 10+. Sarah says, the preference is to say, I look around, and then the GM asks them to roll, rather than I want to make a perception roll, which annoys them. I'm talking about the game masters here. PH says, I prefer little rules for the group and GM to interpret, or miniatures like rules like D&D, so you can have a lot of alternatives all described. I prefer little rules for the group and GM to interpret, or miniatures like rules like D&D, so you can have a lot of alternatives all described. Yeah, I'm against that too. I use diplomacy on him. Exactly. Pathfinder 2E. Cheers. Cheers. So Sable Phoenix says, if the players are playing Powered by the Apocalypse right and not just relying on the dice to be binary adjudicators, then they are the ones who are narrating outcomes as much as the GM. I was fine. So that was when you're talking about the preference is to say, I look around, and then the GM asks them to roll rather than I want to make a perception roll, which annoys them. Sarah is saying, yes, I was a bit behind, but I was talking about the passage where it says, I hope the player remembers there's a roll for that. I see. Because there's a specific thinking, trying to encourage the guy to think in the moves there. So instead, other people would say, I want the player to just say what the character does. And then it's my job as the game master to say, all right, well, that's this move then. That game master was trying to get the player to think in terms of the character's moves. So what are moves? What are the moves? This chapter contains the moves that are available to all characters. These moves fall into two basic categories, basic and special. Basic moves are the bread and butter of the adventurer's life. They cover situations like coming up in fights, tense negotiations, and dangerous areas. Special moves come up a little bit more rarely. They cover things like gaining a level, taking a long journey, or returning to town between adventures. All player characters have the basic and special moves. Each player character will also have some moves from their class. We'll get into those later. Each move is presented here starting with its name and the rules of the move. Some are also accompanied by quick discussions of how to use the move and some examples of the move being used in play. Okay, so basic moves. Hack and slash. When you attack an enemy in melee, sounds like you got to have that in Dungeon World. Sable Phoenix says, in fact, I would say that typically in a Powered by the Apocalypse game, the GM's job is to set up the situation and fill the world, and the players are the ones who dictate the unfolding action. So hack and slash. When you attack an enemy in melee, roll plus strength. On a 10+, you deal your damage to the enemy and avoid their attack. At your option, you may choose to deal plus 1d6 damage, but expose yourself to the enemy's attack. On a 7 to 9, you deal damage to the enemy, and the enemy makes an attack against you. Is it true that in this, the players are the one making moves? Well, it did say there were some moves available to others, but like this is when does the other guy attack? So in this case, like the NPCs are responding to your actions, right? So on a 10+, you deal your damage to the enemy and avoid their attack. But how do you know when the enemy attacks? Well, I went to make an attack. I didn't roll high enough, and then they made an attack against me. Let's see. The enemy's counterattack can be any GM move that's made directly with that creature. A goblin might just attack you back, or they might jam a poison needle into your veins. Life's tough, isn't it? Okay, so for example, this is actually examples of specific moves. This might be better. So this right here. So GM, Jarl, you're up to your not inconsiderable belly and slavering goblins. They have you surrounded, knives barred. What do? Jarl, I've had enough of this. I wallop the closest goblin with my hammer. GM, okay then. This is definitely combat. You're using hack and slash. Roll plus strength. I got an 11. It says here that I have a choice. Fear is for the weak. I let those goblins come. GM says you smash your hammer into the nearest goblin and are rewarded by the satisfying sound of a crunching of his bones. That and a knife wound as the goblin counterattacks. He deals 4 damage to you. What do? So volley is when you take aim and shoot at an enemy at range. Roll plus dex. On a 10 plus, you have a clear shot, deal your damage. On 7 to 9, choose one, whichever you choose to deal your damage. You can choose to have to move to get the shot, placing you in danger as described by the GM. You can take what you can get minus d6 damage. You have to take several shots, reducing your ammo by 1. Sapphire Ridge says there are no turns. Well, I don't know, because it did say that there are things that there are moves the game master can make. So maybe they can make them on those turns. So I like that. So I mean, here with volley. So okay, you're at least this is telling you, like we've talked extensively about success with a cost or partial success, because it often seems like in the most narrative games, it's always passing that over to the player or to the game master, to the player sitting there at the table in general, about what their how to adjudicate a partial success. So what I do like about this in this case is it's telling you on a 7 to 9, okay, that's a partial success or a success with a complication. Here are your options, and the player can just choose. Do you want to have to take several shots, reducing your ammo by 1, or do you want to just subtract d6 from your damage, or do you want to get the shot off but place yourself in danger because you had to move to a new location? I do like that it tells you that. So those things, now it's telling you later on failures, you might have to adjudicate those. But at least the most complex success with a complication or success with a cost are actually being adjudicated by the action. I do like that. I think it's got that going for it. So defy danger. When you act despite an imminent threat or suffer a calamity, say how you deal with it and roll. If you do it by powering through, this is a strength check. By getting out of the way or acting fast, it's a dex check. By enduring, it's a con check. With quick thinking, it's intelligence. Through mental fortitude, it's wisdom. By using charm and social grace, it's charisma. On a 10 plus, you do what you set out to do. The threat doesn't come after you. On 7 to 9, you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. The GM will offer you a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice. Well, okay, now that one, the game master has to adjudicate. I guess because that one is so open-ended anyway. Defend. So we saw defend being used. Defend. When you stand in defense of a person, item, or location under attack, roll plus con. On a 10 plus, hold 3. Hold 3. On 10 plus, hold 3. On 7 to 9, hold 1. As long as you stand in defense, when the thing you defend is attacked, you may spend hold 1 for 1 to choose an option. Redirect an attack. So that must have been what happened when somebody was like, okay, he's going to attack the other guy. No, I spend that hold and I'm going to declare it on myself. Have the attack's effect or damage. Open up the attacker to an ally, giving that ally +1 forward against the attacker. Deal damage to the attacker equal to your level. Sable Phoenix says, being a Powered by the Apocalypse referee is more like being a director of a TV show than the person driving a machine that advances on its own. Neutromancer says, Dungeon World seems fun. Hello, Neutromancer. Oh, lots of stuff going on in the chat. That's good. Neutromancer says, I like generic actions that cover everything. Defy danger instead of having a jump over the pit action. I was thinking about jumping over pits and defying danger. I was thinking about exactly that. Okay, but at least see this one, defend gives you some things here to do here. So Spout Lore. When you consult your accumulated knowledge about something, roll plus int. On a 10 plus, the GM will tell you something interesting and useful about the subject relevant to your situation. On a 7 to 9, the GM will only tell you something interesting. It's on you to make it useful. The GM may ask you, how do you know this? Tell the truth now. Tell them the truth now. So on a 10 plus, the GM will tell you something interesting and useful about the subject's relevance in your situation. On a 7 to 9, the GM will only tell you something interesting. It's on you to make it useful. That might be a hard call. I'm also generally against knowledge checks. So let's get an example of that. So Fen Farrell, the floor is illusory. Damn those gnomes. Damn them straight to wherever gnomes go when they're dead. GM, yep, you're in a murky pit, and there's a shadowy humanoid shape, mottled and eyeless, moving towards you, mumbling. Fen Farrell says, mumbling shape, huh? What's that thing? Is it going to attack me? I'm sure I've read about them somewhere before, maybe at school. GM says, could be Spout Lore. Fen Farrell says, bestow your knowledge upon me, brain. I rolled an 8. Well, of course you know these things. The name escapes you, but you definitely remember a drawing of a creature like this. It was in a hallway standing guard over something. You know there's a trick to get it to let you pass, but you can't quite remember. Why not? Fen Farrell says, obviously I was hungover that day. I was a terrible student. A trick, you say? Discern realities. Oh, here's the question. PH says, hey, Heath, do you know Barbarians of Lemuria? I do not. It's easier, looser, and funnier than Dungeon World. I do not know that one. Is that one that needs to go on our list? I got our list of. I found my list the other day of things to look at. By the way, I was thinking about my situation with game playing. I really need to get like a laptop and stuff like that set up in the living room so that I can do dinner and a board game, like and play a board game live. Because I'm just like I still have like tons of freaking paints and everything sitting over here at my desk. I really need to set up Hero Quest and other gameplay because I want to be able to go through a whole bunch of different games over here. I really need to be able to set those up in the living room. So I got to do I'm going to do an hour of cleaning today here in the house, and then I'm going to work on script writing for a large chunk of time. But I'm going to see about once again going in to try to maybe setting some stuff up in the living room to keep board gaming in the living room. That might be nice. Then we might be able to do it easier because anytime I feel like walking in there, I can just go in there and play a board game. Sarah asked me, why are you against knowledge checks? Because I don't like it, for instance, when to me, because on a foundational level, I have a very specific thing that I think it means to take an action. And when I was writing Faded Edge, to be able to conduct an action, you roll to potentially conduct actions. Not all actions requires a roll, but if there's danger or if there is some outcome that could end up weird, if there's some danger, to the outcome that you action, then you could roll, right? But when you're declaring an action, you're always saying, I'm trying to accomplish X by doing Y. So when you roll to adjudicate the action, you're trying to adjudicate whether or not they were able to do X. I'm trying to do X by doing Y. And a knowledge check just doesn't fit that formula for me. What are you trying to do? What outcome are you trying to bring about in the world? I'm just trying to remember something. That doesn't fit to me the description of an action. And I'm not thinking like the example here, and this is an example I believe that the Angry DM gave. Like you could think, well, no, my action is I'm going to sit there against the wall and I'm going to bang my head up against the wall going, think, brain, think, think. Let me see if I can remember this. Think. That's not an action. So I prefer to gate knowledge by just saying like, well, depending on what your stats are, depending on the particular game, like anybody who has a +2 Arcana will know this. Anyone who has a +5 Arcana will know this. Anyone who has a +8 Arcana will know this. And that way you're not having to actually call for an action, which I think is weird, in order to know something. You're just gating that knowledge based on the skill level of the character. And of course, if you've been following, and I know you have, Sarah, but in general, if you've been following how I like to run things, I want it to be run with less randomness anyway. So if we're just talking about whether or not your character knows something, there should be some statistic on your character sheet that determines how knowledgeable you are, and then gate that knowledge directly based on how knowledgeable you are. I know that like Pathfinder has people roll for this and has tried to incorporate knowledge rolls directly into combat. We need to look at that some more. But I don't like it when, there's this magical circle on the floor and the players walk in. Excuse me. The players walk in. The game master says something like, there's an ancient magical looking circle of glowing runes on the floor. And then the game master looks at the characters and somebody's like, okay, I roll Arcana. Oh, I rolled a this or I rolled a that, which can be very highly random. So I would much rather, like the game master says, rather it goes something like this. You walk in, you walk into the room. There's a magical glowing circle on the floor of, elven runes. Hey, wizard character, what is your Arcana score? It's +5. Oh, at +5? Okay, then you realize this particular magic circle is designed for blah, 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 and just have the game master deliver that information based on something static about the character rather than having the character roll for it. So that's my preference. PH says, you played a Masters of the Universe campaign in Barbarians of the Lemuria, and it was great. We need a Masters of the Universe role-playing game. Once the wizard had to dance on top of a tower all covered in fear herons to make a spell work. Neutromancer says, I agree. I used to think Powered by the Apocalypse were limited to a few actions until I actually read what they were. Between the archetype and global moves, it covers most things pretty well. Sable Phoenix says, I got you about that, Heath. That's exactly why I love the way 13th Age does skills. And we've got 13th Age on this list. You get points to spend on backgrounds, and any skill that would be reasonably fit within those is something that you can use in the moment. So if you're a wizard of the White Tower and they study dragon lore heavily, you would naturally know that lore and can just call it when needed. Sarah says, I can see how a player asking for history, religion, int checks can indicate to GM that there's holes in what has been described. The GM may not remember to say everything the PCs need. But you could also just say, okay, wait a minute, I have a +8 in religion. Does that give me any additional information? That's how I think you would rephrase this. Neutromancer says, I think you're not trying to remember, but actually find out if that's a thing you know. Sure, taking a turn to think makes no sense to me. My DM in D&D did that, but that's not exactly a rule. Yeah, but I'm just using a different method for determining whether or not you know it. Yeah, so I'm taking the randomness out of knowing things, and I'm doing that because in this case, specifically because I only want people to roll for actions, and actions are about to me, actions are about adjudicating whether or not an outcome occurs based on a certain way of doing things. So yeah, we do have to. So there needs to be a way to adjudicate whether or not you know something. I'm fine with that. My answer though is that I would just adjudicate that by hard gates, saying, here's what you know at a certain level. Here's what you know at a certain level. Don't roll to see whether or not you know stuff. Let's see. The Last Phoenix says, I actually like knowledge checks that way as a chance that your character encountered the relevant knowledge. Well, that's I mean, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That strikes me, in fact, as the same kind of way that, like we're talking about, can I please roll to see if I can kill the dragon? Maybe my arrow goes through its eye and into its brain and kills it. If you're playing a highly random game and you like highly random games, then will you please let me roll to see if I know it? Will you please let me roll? Maybe I know something about this monster. Will you please let me roll? If you're playing in a highly random game, then I get it. Sapphire Ridge says, I don't allow my players to roll a dice unless they risk harm or losing something if they fail. So a knowledge check isn't useful. I just use the skill equals basis for average knowledge too. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think it's the rolling that's weird to me. You just gate it by, their skill. So the Last Phoenix says, I actually like the checks that way. There's a chance that your character encountered the relevant knowledge. Continuing way, that way even the dumb dwarf tank can know something a wizard missed just because my ex-girlfriend was a wizard. I was that thing on her fancy books. That's just gameplay style. That's just gameplay style to me. In fact, that's in fact, these are the analogous situation to that is, hey, if we've got some magic runes on the floor and we don't know what they do, okay, the wizard rolls up and says, comes up and says, I'd like to roll Arcana, and the wizard blows that. Should the tank of a dwarf be able to actually know? Maybe in this case it is. Okay, yeah, the wizard came up and just blew it. The dwarf says, well, no, wait a minute. I'm going to roll Arcana too, because we need to know something about this. And in that case, the dwarf happens to roll really well, and so gets knowledge about it. To me, that's analogous to, okay, we've got this iron gate here. Can we open it? And so the barbarian goes over and makes his roll, and it's impossible for the barbarian to open the gate. And then the players are like, well, we do really need to open this gate. Wizard, will you go over there and try to open this gate? And the wizard rolls really high, and the wizard throws it open. Do you want that to happen? Some people are going to answer yes, and some people are going to answer no. That, if is the Arcana the wizard's specialty, so if the wizard has the highest Arcana in the group, and the wizard doesn't know something about this arcane rune, is anybody else going to? Some people are going to say no. Some people are going to say, well, if they roll really high. Likewise, if the barbarian cannot open the portcullis here, should the wizard be able to? Some people are going to say yes. Some people are going to say no, because some people want the wizard to be able to roll for it. Other people are like, no, wait a minute. The character with the highest strength in this group could not open this gate. So what do I do? James says, I always like it when I like hearing from both sides. So James agrees. I agree that knowledge checks are weird. And I actually really like gating knowledge like that. Oh, saw that in one of her books. Okay, so that was that was one of the things I saw in her fancy books. So Sapphire says, if the wizard pulls off rolling high strength, I would imagine he used magic without a spell slot, but I wouldn't let that happen. Hey, Moonswan, welcome. Good morning. Keith came a little late today. What's my personal preference on high range? Is that range dice rolls? I'm not sure. The wizard uses his staff as a leverage because he's smart. If that's high range, you mean overwhelming the statistic, the modifier. I'm against that. Yeah, I wish we had the what was it? Cortex Masters of the Universe. So maybe that's it. Jerry Harris is, hey, Jerry, do we need a toast to Jerry here? Jerry, the barbarian loosened the pickle jar before the barbarian was able to open it. Welcome, Jerry. Neutromancer counters this by saying, if I ask you if you're familiar with an RPG book, it's not an automatic yes because your RPG lore is high. You have to actually have encountered that RPG. But see, Zero the Blades counter is the counter to that. To me, we're talking in the context of a game here. The randomness factor could be annoying just because someone with high mods can fail, but weak mods have about the same odds of success when you're operating in a highly random environment. Yes. I think so. I mean, what Neutromancer says is true. I mean, if you haven't actually seen that particular book, so that's what you're rolling. Did I actually see that particular book? But how do you the question is, how do you want that adjudicated at the table, and what type of feel are you going for? Because, like, if we were talking about this situation in terms of a movie, for instance, would the high skill level character in whatever it is, with the high skill knowledge skill character, if they don't know something, it's probably not just because, oh well, I just never looked at that. It's probably for some actual reason that they don't know it. So I would include some type of reason in the world, like, okay, if the high skill level character isn't going to know this, then it's because there's some specific reason in the game world as to why. Nightmare says, when it comes to knowledge, one of my favorite things to do is to ask players if they would reasonably know what something is. The player will answer yes or no and explain why. Oh, Moonswan says, sorry, I meant random number generator, not as in range, as in high randomness. Yeah, I'm against high randomness. In fact, when I'm working on the Fated Edge RPG, which is the one I'm designing here on stream, from time to time, I work on reducing randomness. Reducing randomness is a big deal to me. The Last Phoenix says, knowledge checks are a bit weird if players know about the monster, like use fire against a troll, but fail their check. And now they're either metagame or have to purposely sabotage themselves. Anon says, notice the knowledge check in Dungeon World carries risk. So that's basically what we were doing here. Discern reality. That's what we're looking at. Oh, no. Spout lore. That's what we're talking about here. Spout lore. Let's look at another example. Okay. Vita says, I got a 10 on my Spout lore about this gilded skull. GM, you're pretty sure you recognize the metalwork of Dis, the living city. Vitus, and I did get a 10. GM, right, of course. Well, you recognize a few glyphs specifically. They're Ifriti, marks of a fire spell, but they're different, a kind of transmutation magic. I bet if you cast a spell onto the skull, it turns into a fire spell. Magic missiles of fire. Hurrah! So what is our cost? When you consult, let's look at this again, since we're looking at this. When you consult your accumulated knowledge about something, roll plus int. On 10 plus, the GM will tell you something interesting and useful about the subject relevant to your situation. On a 7 to 9, the GM will only tell you something interesting. It's on you to make it useful. On a 6 or minus, well, something else might happen, but you do get to add experience. Let's look here. Parley. When you have leverage on the GM character and manipulate him, roll versus charisma. Leverage is something they need or want. On 10 plus, they do as you ask if you first promise what they ask of you. On a 7 or 9, they will do what you ask, but they need some concrete assurances of your promises right now. aid or interfere. When you help or hinder someone, roll plus bond with them. On a 10 plus, they take +1 or -2 to their roll, your choice. On 7 to 9, they still get a modifier, but you also expose yourself to danger, retribution, or cost. Let's look at last breath here, because that had to do with dying. Special moves. Special moves are moves that come up less often in a more specific situation. They're the basis of what characters can do in the dungeon world, particularly what they do between dungeon crawls and high-flying creatures. Last breath. When you're dying, you catch a glimpse of what lies beyond the black gates of Death's kingdoms. The GM will describe it. Then roll. Just roll, plus nothing. Yeah, Death doesn't care about how tough or cool you are. On a 10 plus, you've cheated Death. You're in a bad spot, but you're still alive. On 7 to 9, Death himself will take a bargain. Take it and stabilize or refuse and pass beyond the black gates into whatever fate awaits you. On a 6-, your fate is sealed. You've marked as Death's own, and you've crossed the threshold, and you'll cross the threshold soon. The GM will tell you when. The last breath is that moment standing between you and life and death. Time stands still as Death appears to claim the living for his own. Even those who do not pass beyond the black gates will catch a glimpse of the other side that might well await them. Friends and enemies past, reward or punishment for acts in life, or other strange vistas. All are changed in some way by this moment. There are 3 outcomes with this move. On a 10 plus, the character has cheated Death in some meaningful way. He's escaped with something that by rights isn't his anymore. Death is powerless to stop him, but he remembers this slight. On a 7 to 9, the GM should offer a real choice with significant consequence. Again, putting a lot on the GM. Think about the behavior of the character and the things they've learned about him in play. Death knows and sees all and tailors his bargains accordingly. This is his trade, remember. Often something that will be a challenge to play out, but will lead to the game in a new fun direction. On a miss, Death is inevitable. The most obvious approach to say is Death takes you across the threshold into his bleak kingdom and move on. However, sometimes Death comes slowly. You might say you have a week to live, or you can feel the cold hand of Death on you and leave it at that for now. The player may want to give in and accept Death's fate at that point. That's okay. Let them create a new character as normal. The key thing is to remember that a brush with Death, succeed or fail, is a significant moment that should always lead to change. Encumbrance. See, this is weird. When you make a move while carrying weight, you may be encumbered. If your weight carried is equal to or less than your load, you suffer no penalty. Less than or equal to your load plus 2, you take -1 ongoing until you lighten your burden. Greater than your load plus 2, you have a choice. Drop at least 1 weight and roll at -1 or automatically fail. That doesn't sound like a move. That sounds like a modification to a move. That one sounds different to me. No, it's all right. That's why these things are live. That's why I like the live format. I like the discussion, and we had a great discussion. Let's see, what else is going on here? So, Sarah says, when you eventually publish a book, do an edit pass for accessibility and usability in the style and layout. This makes a big difference to people that people often don't consider. Okay, so the problem is the too many large blocks of italics. That's an interesting point. We'll see. Neutromancer says, yeah, DM should stop assuming every single peasant doesn't already know about troll regen or Medusa's gaze. Let's see. So make camp. So we're closing in on the end here, I think. I've got some other things I've got to do today. But let's keep going for a moment longer. So make camp. You settle in to rest, consume a ration. If you're somewhere dangerous, decide the watch order as well. If you've had enough XP, you may level up. When you wake up from at least a few uninterrupted hours of sleep, heal damage equal to half your max HP. You usually make camp so you can do other things like prepare spells or commune with your god, or sleep soundly at night. Whenever you stop to catch your breath for more than an hour or so, you've probably made camp. Staying a night at an inn or house is making camp too. Regain your hit points as usual, but only mark off a ration if you're eating from the food you carry, not paying for a meal or receiving hospitality. When you take watch, when you're on watch and something approaches the camp, roll plus wisdom. On 10 plus, you're able to wake the camp and prepare a response. Everyone in the camp takes +1 forward. On 7 to 9, you react just a moment too late. Let your companions in camp are awake but haven't had time to prepare. They have weapons and armor, but little else. On a miss, whatever lurks outside the campfire's light has the drop on you. Undertake a perilous journey. When you travel through hostile territory, choose one member of the party to act as the trailblazer, one to scout ahead, and one to be quartermaster. Each character with a job to do rolls plus wisdom. On a 10 plus, the quartermaster reduces the number of rations required by 1. The trailblazer reduces the amount of time it takes to reach your destination. The game master will say by how much. The scout will spot any trouble quick enough to let you get the drop on it. On a 7 to 9, each role performs their job as expected. The normal number of rations is consumed. The journey takes about as long as expected. No one gets the drop on you, but you didn't get the drop on them either. End of session. So this was, I remember this being an apocalypse, a world of the apocalypse or apocalypse world thing too. When you reach the end of a session, choose one of your bonds that you feel is resolved, completely explored, no longer relevant or otherwise. Ask the player of that character you have the bond with if they agree. If they do, mark XP and write a new bond with whoever you wish. Once bonds have been updated, look at your alignment. If you fulfilled that alignment at least once during the session, mark XP. Then answer these questions as a group. Did we learn something new and important about the world? Did we overcome a notable enemy or monster? Did we loot memorable treasure? For each yes, everyone marks HP. When you have downtime, hours or days, and XP equal to or greater than your current level plus 7, you can reflect on your experiences and hone your skills. Subtract your current level plus 7 from your XP. Increase your level by 1. Choose a new advanced move from your class. If you're the wizard, you also get to add a new spell to your spell book. Choose one of your stats and increase it by 1. This may change your modifier. Changing your constitution increases your maximum and current HP. Ability scores can't go higher than 18. We also have carouse, supply, recover, recruit, outstanding warrants, bolster. Those were all special moves. So now we go into each one of the different characters. So this is I think a large chunk of this. So I think we got through a lot of the because this is now going through. Here's the druid, for instance, and all of the druid special moves and describing all of the characters. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Neutromancer says, what I like about Fate is that a knowledge roll would actually be about getting a free invoke to attack someone and less about what the monster is. They are ticklish in that they are ticklish in a specific body part. The paladin, the ranger, the thief, the wizard, the GM, well, let's see. So principles. So the principles here, we got extra stuff. Somebody was talking about, I remember in the chat, somebody was talking about a great book for reading as a game master. Principles. Draw maps, leave blanks, address the characters, not the players, embrace the fantastic, make a move that follows, never speak the name of your move, give every monster life, name every person, ask questions and use answers, be a fan of the characters, think dangerous, begin and end with the fiction, think off screen too. Your principles are your guides. Often when it's time to make a move, you'll already have an idea of what makes sense. Consider it in light of the principles and go with it if it fits. There's no quicker way to ruin the consistency of Dungeon World than to tell the players what move you're making. Your moves are prompts to you, not things you say directly. You never show the players that you're picking a move from a list. You know the reason the slavers dragged off Omar was because you made the put someone in a spot move. but you show it to the players as a straightforward outcome of their actions, since it is. Everyone the players speak with has a name. They probably have a personality and goals and opinions too, but you can figure those out as you go. Start with a name. The rest can follow from there. So be a fan of the characters. Think of the player characters as protagonists in a story you might see on TV. Cheer for their victories and lament their defeats. You're not here to punish them in any particular direction, merely to participate in a fiction that features them and their actions. When to make a move. So this is when the game master moves. So this is important. When you make a move, when everyone looks to you to find out what happens, when the players give you a golden opportunity, or when they roll 6-. Generally, when the players are just looking to you to find out what happens, you make a soft move. Otherwise, you make a hard move. A soft move is one without immediate irrevocable consequences. That usually means it's something not all that bad, like revealing there's more treasure if they can just find a way past the golem. Offer an opportunity with a cost. It can also mean that something bad, but they have time to avoid it, like having the goblins' archers loose their arrows, showing signs of approaching threat, with a chance for them to dodge out of danger. A soft move ignored becomes a golden opportunity for a hard move. If the players do nothing about the hail of arrows flying toward them, it's a golden opportunity to use the deal damage move. Hard moves, on the other hand, have immediate consequences. Dealing damage is almost always a hard move, since it means a loss of HP that won't be recovered without some action for the players. When you have a chance to make a hard move, you can opt for a soft one instead if it fits the situation better. Deal damage, use up their resources, turn their moves back on them. So there's a lot in here for the game master and how to actually run this. Dealing with common situations, including fights, traps, people. Let me go back up to the table of contents just to see if there's something else we need to take a look at. So we were just taking a look at Game Master. Okay, so what we've got left here is the Game Master, the first session, fronts. I don't know what the front is. The world, monsters. What is a front? Oh, an adventure front. Okay. We may have looked at a bunch of this. The Last Phoenix says, never speak the name of your move. What about my anime character screaming Fireblade as they attack? All right. So there's also a bunch of monster stuff in here someplace. Formian drone. Orc Blood Warrior. Okay, so Orc Blood Warrior. Here's what they look like. So we would say Orc Blood Warrior, horde, intelligent, organized, jagged blade, d6 plus 2 damage, 1 piercing, 3 HP, 0 armor, close, messy. The Orcish horde is a savage, bloodthirsty, and hateful collection of tribes. There are myths and stories that tell of the origin of their rage, a demon curse, a homeland destroyed, elven magic gone wrong, but the truth has been lost to time. Every able orc, be it man, woman, child, or elder, swears fealty to the war chief and their tribe and bears the jagged blade of a blood warrior. Men are trained to fight and kill. Orcs are born to it. Instinct to fight, fight with abandon, and revel in destruction. So that's what a monster write-up looks like. Oh, the Tarosk. I just saw the Tarosk. Solitary, huge, planar, special qualities, impervious. The Tarosk, legendary, unstoppable juggernaut, eater of cities and swallower of ships, horses, and knights. A creature unseen in an age, but about whom all kinds of stories are told. One thread of truth weaves these stories. It cannot be killed. No blade can pierce its stony shell, nor spell penetrate the shield it somehow bears. Stories say, though, that the will of one pure soul can send it to slumber. Though what that means, and by the gods, where there's a thing to be found, pray we do not ever need to learn. It slumbers somewhere. And then this looks like gear costs. Yeah, and the special items. This is a long book. Look, this is page 349. So this is a major book. This is longer than I thought. But I think we got the gist of it. All right. Well, this was fun. I think that was a great conversation. I think that was a lot of fun. So let's I guess we'll wrap up. I've got to clean up around here, and then I'm going to try to do writing and screenwriting today. Although I also want to spray paint some new miniatures that I've got to paint. So there's a lot of work to be done. I hope that everybody enjoyed it. I did. I think that I have a better understanding of Apocalypse World after having gone through this, or that Powered by the Apocalypse after having gone through this, than I did with just Apocalypse World. So I guess looking at both of them was a good deal. So, all right, everybody. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Please be creative, be constructive, and I will see you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Pan Smith and Stargate Mind. I really appreciate it. All right. So be constructive, be creative, and grind on. I will see everybody tomorrow. Later.